Yeah, well, I think that the biggest thing that stands out to me is just, the fact that in general, I think as a sport, we've done a really good job of navigating and adapting to our environment and doing the things that we need to do to to put on a race and a show, and obviously you're seeing fans back in the stands, and I think our sport's been a leader on a lot of those types of things. I think from a team standpoint and a sport, I think we've definitely, I think we've been able to try a lot of things that we probably wouldn't have tried if it wasn't for COVID. So, I think when you step back from it, I think COVID will have forever changed our sport in many different areas. I think we've realized a lot of inefficiencies that we've had as a sport, from how many people we take to the track to how we function, how many days we need to be at the track. There's just so many little things that will make us more efficient, whether it's how we bring guests to the racetrack, how we sign in, the sheer number of people, the days we're at the racetrack. I think there's just a lot of things that happen that probably wouldn't have happened as rapidly if we weren't in this in this environment. So, in a really, really bad scenario, I think we're going to come out of this with a lot of ideas and have tried a lot of things that we might not have necessarily tried if it was a normal year.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take our next question from Jeff Gluck. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Kevin, obviously Vegas, we didn't see the speed out of you guys that we would typically expect. Any level of concern on your part?
Look, every year you don't really know what to expect when things change. I think, for us, we just missed it on all levels, with all the different things that are going on from last year. So, I think whether we overthought it or just missed it, is yet to be seen, but we just missed it bad.
Okay, our next question will come from Claire B. Lane. Go ahead, Claire.
Thank you. Kevin, NASCAR said they're going to take a look at spinning on purpose, when your tire goes down after what they saw in the truck race. It was brought up to them. And I wonder, how do you look at that? How do you look at creating a spin, but you can kind of get away with it and not really knowing if that indeed is what happens?
Yeah, I did not see the truck race, so I can't, really respond to exactly what you're talking about. But, I think, from an officiating standpoint, you just got to be consistent. And I think we've seen some inconsistencies on how they react to that particular type of situation over the last couple of years. So, I think that when you don't officiate those things consistently, you open yourself up to having to talk about it in ways that you don't really necessarily know is right or wrong, because of the fact that one time it was officiated one way, one time it was officiated another way. So, it's a tough scenario that you have to try to balance as to what's right or wrong. But I did not see what happened in the truck race.
One other quick question. I was reading the quotes from you that your team released of how you felt about your car during the race last week. It was unbelievable. You're not a complainer, right? But there were so many quotes about how you were feeling in each stage. And then again, plowing tight, lap 230, running 20th. This thing is out of control. And you're not a complainer. What was it like driving that car? Was it that bad?
Not fun.
Safe to say that's all you got to say about it? Was it? Fans don't know what it's like to try and drive a car like that. How was it?
Yeah. Well, I'm just, I can just tell you that it's not that much fun to drive. I'd explain it, but it would take way too long.
Yeah, appreciate it. I think we get the message, just not fun. Good luck this weekend. Thank you.
Okay, our next question is going to come from Zach Dean. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, Kevin, just sort of piggybacking off Bob's question earlier with the 1-year COVID anniversary, just wondering if you can sort of go back to that moment when you guys found out last year. I think the anniversary is like Saturday when the NASCAR world was going to sort of shut down. And do you remember what you were feeling at that moment and just sort of your emotions 1 year ago?
Yeah, well, I was going to Atlanta, so I don't know that Phoenix is the proper representation of exactly when we shut down. You know, for me, I was actually headed to the race, and as we were going to the race, it was, you know, keep coming, don't come to the race, go home. And, you know, I think for those first couple of weeks, there was just a lot of uncertainty as to what was right, what was wrong, how long was this going to last? It's not going to last long, and now it's going to last forever. So, you know, there's just a lot of things that you remember that you really didn't have the answers to at that particular moment. And you know, I think for me, the thing that sticks out the most is actually driving to Darlington and wondering whether I should be on the road or not, if I was going to get in trouble for being driving on the road, if I was actually going to work, not going to work, should I drive home, not drive home? Can I stay in my motorhome? Can I not stay in the motorhome? Should I bring my helmet to the car? Should I, you know, you had so many questions about what to do and what not to do, that it was just a really strange time.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going to take our next question from Jordan Bianchi. Go ahead, Jordan.
Hey, Kevin, where would you assess Stewart-Haas Racing is at right now, performance-wise, compared to Penske, Gibbs, Hendrick?
It's hard to tell. You know, I think last week we, you know, not good, but you know, we've run 4 races at 3 different styles of track, so we'll see.
And kind of a follow-up question is what the question Zach was asking. The Atlanta weekend, you're going there on a Friday, and everything kind of the sports world kind of was shifting on that Wednesday night. Do you remember the gap between Wednesday and Friday and what you were thinking, and thinking, hey, is NASCAR really going to be doing this on the weekend?
I do not.
Okay.
Okay, our next question is going to come from Alex Andrea. Go ahead, Alex.
Hey, Kevin, I'm wondering just kind of what changes since you guys are going back to another intermediate track. What were those conversations like at Stewart-Haas, and are there going to be kind of massive changes in the car setup, you know, this coming weekend?
That'd probably be a great question for Greg Zipadelli, because I don't really have those exact answers as to, you know, exactly what they're going to do.
And then, well, and I guess what was some of your feedback then, at least for, you know, how you kind of need the car to be and feel this weekend?
Well, it's a drastically different racetrack this weekend, so, you know, I don't think that those are really not the same conversations that you would have about Phoenix as you would have about Las Vegas. So, you know, we've gone through Las Vegas, and that's really about it.
And then, I mean, we've talked to other drivers about kind of the parity that we've seen this year, but I don't know if we've heard from you necessarily, like, why you think that we're seeing all of these different drivers this early, and if you think that's something that's going to continue this season.
Hard to tell if it's going to continue. You know, I think as you look at the beginning of the season, I think you look at Daytona, I don't think anybody would tell you that they would say that Michael McDowell couldn't have won the Daytona 500. You know, I think that, you know, that particular race and the way that he's run at that particular racetrack has been good, and that led to a lot of momentum for them, and they've run well going forward. So, you know, I don't think it's abnormal for, you know, where everything could start on a particular season. It's just, you know, the start of every year kind of brings something different that you have to adapt to as a team, and some teams are better than others. And I think in this environment, coming off of the winter, you know, is much different than you know, what we did last year, when you have 4 races and then you had 8 weeks to work on everything that you did in those 4 races, you know, to fix or fine tune on the things that you had. So this year you're kind of doing everything on the fly. You know, obviously, you know, for us, we had a good first few races, and in Vegas we were off, but, you know, 3 out of 4 have been just fine for us.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question is going to come from Jenna Farrar. Go ahead, Jenna.
Hey, Kevin, I'm wondering, besides fans and family access, what you miss most about the pre-COVID days at the racetrack?
Yeah, you know, I think for me, it's the interaction with the team, you know, just trying to solve a problem, right? Whether it's good or bad, trying to solve that problem with a group of people is always something that has been exciting for me and challenging for me. And, so I miss that part and that interaction with, the guys on my team to work on my car in person.
And regarding Phoenix, you once were very dominant there, the most dominant there. Are you still a threat, do you think? An automatic
That's a
threat?
silly question. That's a silly question.
Okay.
I think you should go back and look at the first race from last year that we led the most laps and had the fastest car. So we wound up finishing second. So it's I would consider us a challenger at just about any racetrack that you go to, but you're not going to be that way all the time. So I think as we go to Phoenix, you expect to go there and perform well.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question will come from Lee Spencer. Go ahead, Lee.
Thank you. Kevin, you've always been a real devoted dad to your kids. And I'm just wondering if the pandemic gave you even more family time. If there's one positive to come out of the pandemic, has it been the time you've been able to spend with your kids and your wife?
Well, it's definitely changed the way that our house functions and how we function as a family. So, I've got two of them that are in school at home, and that hasn't changed even with our schools going back in. We've kept our kids at home because we've just done so many things differently, to adapt to the pandemic, and so many of those things have come with more family time. So I think as you look at that, and whether it's how much more we cook at home, how much more we sit at the table and eat together, or when the kids are on break from school, they're actually in the house or in the yard or somewhere around you, and so you don't go to the grocery store anymore. You don't, Amazon comes a lot more to the front door, and so there's a lot more things that happen at home. And even though they haven't been able to go to the racetrack up until the last couple of weeks, you're actually home way more. So there's a lot of things that have changed for us personally in the way that our household functions in a very good way.
Does it seem like, racers really don't know what normal life is? What normal life is to people on the road all the time is different. Has this kind of given you a glimpse of how the other guy lives?
Yeah, I think that's probably something that I would tell you that is something that the way racing used to be. I think over the last several years, it has become, I wouldn't say last several years, I'd say over the last decade, has become much more, family oriented than it even was before, just because of the fact of how we travel and how you go back and forth. When you're done with the race, you come right back home and you travel into the next week. And with the, lack of testing and the simulation and the way that all that has changed, I think that's something that has been progressing over the last 10 years and been that way for much longer than what it was before. So I would tell you that we have spent more time at home this year than we have in the past, but everything was always, you get the race schedule, then you plan your vacations and time with your family. And for us, it was always, how do we include everybody to come to as many races as they want, that you miss as little school as possible. And so, with the way that everything has changed and school at home and now Keelan's racing, he races more than I do. So, there's a lot that's, you have to balance, but it's still all around, us being together in some way, shape or form.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, our next question will come from Chris Estrada. Go ahead, Chris.
Just going back to Stewart-Haas racing as a whole, when you're in a situation where a team is having struggles performance-wise, as a driver, how do you know when to actively work to help solve the problem and when you have to kind of step back and just have to trust the shop and trust the crews to get you back to better performance?
Yeah, well, you can't just step back. I think you have to push buttons. And this is not an abnormal situation for any race team. You're going to be in situations where you're up, you're down, and that problem solving is actually, a piece of it that is always enjoyable, because when you have a weekend, because I wouldn't I wouldn't characterize the weekend that we had as to how the first 3 weeks have gone for us, on the 4-car. You're going to have those particular weekends, and you have to be a source of information. You're not going to fix it. Like I have no chance of fixing it. I'm merely the source of information from what happens in the car. It's way too technical. There's way too many engineers involved, and you have to be confident in the things that you're saying and feeling to deliver that information, and then ask enough questions to make sure that the direction is and kind of the magnitude of your suggestions is put into the proper channels to make sure that it's delivered in the appropriate way as an emergency or just isolated problem or whatever the scenario is. So that Vegas is a tough racetrack just because of the fact that it falls into a lot of different categories as far as ride quality, as far as aerodynamic balance. Do you want to work on the front of the car, or the back of the car? Do you go to the wind tunnel and use up some of your wind tunnel time, and how do you put that into your simulation? Where does that fall into the things that you did last year, and how do you categorize all those things to put into perspective of what happened over the weekend? So you have to look at the things that you did that led to this particular road. Is it your simulation? Is it the setups that your engineering group put into the race car? Did you do things right on the 7 post? Do you need to go to the wind tunnel? There's just a lot of things that you have to try to tie all those pieces together. But Vegas in general, it's a real balance between all those things, from a mechanical grip and aerodynamics and aerodynamic balance and bump stop loads and spring choices and all those things come into play at Vegas because it's just a difficult racetrack to get all those things right.
Okay, our next question is going to come from Greg Engel. Go ahead, Greg.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks for joining us. Obviously, yeah, you're a source of information, and obviously Phoenix doesn't represent the entire year, or Las Vegas doesn't represent the entire year, and it sucked. But as you come out there and head to a track where you normally do very well at, that's got to give you a little bit of comfort. But obviously you were disappointed about last weekend, but obviously angry too, I bet. And is an angry Kevin Harvick a faster Kevin Harvick going into this weekend?
Most of my races are over by Monday, whether we've won or lost. It's really just whatever the challenge is for the next week, and how do you recap the last week. So, running first or running last is really no different for me on a Monday morning. Angry takes too much time, and it's hard to carry that all the way through the week and have everybody around the house want to participate in being around you. So, I think for me, it's Phoenix is a great example, and I told this to Jenna earlier. I think when you look back at the first race last year, and you have a chance to win the race and have the best car, and then you go back to the second race and things don't go your way because just not what you expected. That's just part of what we do. And you guys sometimes see the results and look at it and say, oh, we got to he's going to be this or that, and really it's just it's the same. It's really no different as you get into the meetings on Monday. The conversations may be different, but it's the same routine week after week for me.
Thanks. And a quick other question about Keelan. Obviously that kid's doing well. He's not just beating he's not just beating kids in the neighborhood. He's out there winning national races. That's something that's different that came out of the pandemic. How is it now as you start to get into quote your new norm unquote? How hard is it to help support his race career as you move forward in your own?
Well, it just takes a lot of planning, because in order to properly teach somebody how to race, they have to race a lot. And, I think this is kind of the first time that we've that we've jumped into trying to plan, 2 racing schedules and, where everybody's going to be and keeping mom happy with, where we're at with school and, her having to load up and take everybody to the go-kart track is new for her. So it's a lot of spreadsheets that you can see that's keep everything organized.
Thanks, Kevin. Have fun this weekend.
Thanks.
Okay, our next question will come from Jim Utter. Go ahead, Jim.
Hey, Kevin, I was just wondering, several guys have been picking some different things to try in anticipation of the Bristol dirt race. I was wondering if you've given any thought to doing a race beforehand or maybe doing the truck race.
We've talked about a few different things. I don't know that we've really decided on exactly what we're going to do. So, we've been, I know some of the other guys are doing things and I don't know that it's 100% relevant to the vehicles that we're going to be driving. So we're trying to, figure out exactly what we need to do the week of the race to be prepared for it. But right now we're worried about Phoenix.
Is it kind of a hard balance to put a lot of apples into one race that you don't know how much it might actually turn out to be worth?
Yeah, I think there's so many variables in that race, from if I just step back and look at it and say, what would you think about this race? What would be the proper thing to do for us with me personally not having a huge background. I think, obviously Tony has a huge background and should be an integral part of what we do as a race team as far as making sure that we're prepared. But, I think for me personally, I know that I'm going to be a little bit at a deficit as far as when I look at the racetrack and the things that I see and where I need to go. Do I need to keep moving up? Do I need to move down? When does it go dry slick? What's the racetrack going to be like? What do you anticipate? I think for me, I have to look at Chase and Briscoe and just, kind of take their lead. He's got a background in it and just know that I'm still going to be driving a cup car on a dirt track. It's not going to be like a dirt late model or a midget or a modified but those guys that do that stuff all the time will definitely have an advantage as far as knowing where they need to go, when they need to go. And I just kind of have to follow along and keep my eyes open and pay attention. So in the end, I still think that it's going to be just survival. It's the longest dirt race in history of mankind. So who knows what the racetrack is going to be like at the end of 250 laps. So if you guys can see it, it's going to be exciting.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, our next question is going to come from Jeff with Empire Sports. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're coming up on the 20th anniversary. It feels like only yesterday, but the 20th anniversary of your first career win at Atlanta. So how impressed are you with the way the sport has evolved, both on a national exposure level and a safety level as well over the past 2 decades since your Cup career began?
I don't know who feels like it was yesterday, but it's not me. It seems like a lifetime ago.
Well,
yeah. Well, I think as you look at the sport and I think the one thing that sticks out to me is just the massive amount of effort that NASCAR has put into putting our sport where it is today from a safety standpoint. And I think, from Dale's death and to where we are today and the things that accident taught us about our race cars and safety equipment and seats and walls and chassis. And, you look at, how we've crashed cars in Nebraska into walls that create these just massive wrecks, but also provide a massive pile of information. And, with NASCAR continuing to push forward on a yearly basis, a weekly basis, and learn from all the different accidents and take, Ryan's Newman's accident from Daytona and look at the changes to the car. I think it's, it's changed a tremendous amount. So, the way that our sport operates and the way that sports operates in general is much different than it was in 2001. But the safety side is the side from a driving standpoint that sticks out the most to me.
And as a bit of the elder statesman of sorts in terms of driving over at SHR, what's the best piece of advice you can give to the younger guys in the organization like Cole and Chase as their Cup careers have gotten off to not quite the best start, but definitely something that they can recover from?
You have to just take it week by week, and you can't overreact to any one situation just because of the fact that it's just going to be, that part is going to be constant as you go through your career. You're going to have times when things are not going exactly right, and you're going to have times when things are going great. You just have to figure out how to be, a piece of the puzzle to give the information to the the fullest degree of how you understand it to try to help be a part of the process to make it better, keep it good, whatever it is. And it's just it's a 1 week at a time grind.
Terrific. Thanks, Kevin. Good luck this weekend.
All right, Kevin. Well, we appreciate you joining us today and really appreciate you spending some extended time with us. And before we go, just one final question. I know several people asked about Keelan, but any chance that he's asked for an addition put on for all his trophies or his own trophy room at this point?
No, and I have to remind him periodically that he's still just a go-kart racer, and until he gets a real job, that he's still under control of mom and dad. So he can have a little bit of space in his little room downstairs with his iRacing simulator and all the things that he has down there, but he's going to have to go find his own place if he wants to be in charge of where they all go.
All right. Well, thank you again for your time today, and we wish you the best of luck in Phoenix this weekend.
All right. Thank you.